What's up, guys? In this video, we're going to create a to-do list. It's going to be mainly to learn how you manipulate the DOM with JavaScript and also how to handle events. So let's get right into it. I created a simple design sketch in Illustrator. This is how the to-do list is going to look like. It's mainly for mobile format, but you can also scale it up if you'd like to, but we're going to create it mainly for the mobile format. That's why we have this big icon on top. So you can see that we have two lists, basically, like the items that aren't done and the items that are done. And you also have a delete icon and a complete icon with two states. And this one has a hover state, that's when it becomes red. Cool. So I'm going to upload this design sketch to you guys. You can also export the icons however you like and design it for other formats as well. Cool. So let's create some code. So in the app folder right here, this is where all our code is going to be. We have the reset CSS, and this is my custom reset that I use for most of my projects. It's really simple, sets up some basic properties like box sizing for all elements and some basic floats, fonts and stuff. So you can check it out if you like to. It's going to be included in the code. And then we have some icons that I exported right here, and we're going to use inline SVG. You can also use it as a basic image tag in the HTML, but in this video we're going to use it as inline SVG. Alright, so let's just open up our favorite text editor. I like Atom. Throw in the folder, and right off the bat we're going to create a resources folder. Inside of this resources folder, we're going to create a CSS folder, a JavaScript folder, or a JS folder. And of course, we're going to throw in the reset CSS right in this CSS folder. And in the index or root file, we're going to create an index.html that is root folder max. And let's generate some base HTML, to-do list app as a title. And we're going to create a style.css file. Cool. All right. So we're going to link in our style sheet. And of course, we're going to include the reset first. All right, cool. So now we have the basic front end set up. We have our styles and we have the HTML. We can open up the HTML if we'd like to see our changes. We can also split this view to make it easier for you guys to see. I'm gonna hide the tree view. Okay, cool. All right, so if we open up the inspector, set it to iPhone 4 size, we can see that the head actually gets the style sheets, and we have no errors, so that means that the styles are loaded. So cool. Let's get going then. So first off, we see that we have a header on top, and this is going to be fixed, so it's stationary on top above all elements, so you can scroll and you keep it on top. So we're going to create that first, and that's going to be a header. We're going to start off with that, and we're going to set the header. We can set the width to 100%, and then the height, what is it, like 80, I believe? Yes, 80 pixels. And it's going to be position fixed, top 0, left 0. Z index we could set 5 since it's on top, and that accommodates for any overlapping elements that might need Z index for whatever reason. Then we have a green background. There's the hex value. Cool. You can also see that it has round corners right here. So we can check out the round corner value, 10 pixels. So that is border, bottom right radius, 10 pixels, and the same for the bottom left corner. Okay, cool. It also has a simple box shadow, so So we're going to grab the box shadow. It's going to be this color. So set that right there. Box shadow, what was it, 024? Right, so the RGBA is 44, 6280, and 0.15, right? Yeah. Cool, so X, Y, spread, or blur rather. Spread is the next one, and the color of our box shadow. Alright, so that should, damn it. Okay, let's just show the tree view either way. You can see the code. Cool. So check it out. Alright, so we actually have our header right there. That's cool. Let's resize it up a little bit. Going back here, you can see that we have an input field as well as a button right there that's going to overlap our input field. We can do this in a couple of different ways, but since there are no more elements underneath inside of this header, we could just put them in straight into the header without any container or anything like that. Since it's fixed as well, we can position an absolute inside of it, and it's gonna they're gonna be positioned based on the actual header. So let's start off with the input field. It's going to be a text input with no name, no value. We can set the placeholder to be enter an activity. ... Okay, cool. And then we have a button. And this button actually has an SVG right here in the middle. That's the first one. So we're going to do that in just a minute. So we're going to start off like that. That's the button, and then the input field. So header inputs. That's going to be width 100%, height 100%, float left. Actually, not 100%. It's 50 pixels, I believe. Yes, 50. Background. That's an RGBA as well. That's white and 20%. So that's 255. 0.2. A border radius of 5 pixels, border of 0 pixels, box shadow of none, outline of none as well. We can actually set appearance to just reset that. Okay, looks kind of good. We also need to add some padding for the header. Alright, cool. Now you can see in the design sketch that it has border radius to make it completely round to accommodate for the button. So that's what we're going to do real quick. That's border, top right radius. And since it's 50 pixels, it's going to be 25 to accommodate for the height. And the same thing for bottom right. Okay, cool. So that looks like completely wrong because I set the border. Damn it, Max. Damn it. Border top left radius. Border bottom left. Alright, yeah, cool. So now it works. And we're going to do a little hack right away where we're going to set the text indent to make the text jump in. You can barely see it, so actually let's wait for that and just set the placeholder color to a bit more white. So this is a pseudo selector for the input placeholder, and I believe it's going to be 50. Yeah, okay. That's interesting. I actually set it to 100%. Oh well, that's a bit weird though. Let's actually set it to 75 instead. Yeah, that's better. And we're gonna set the color to F. So after we type, yeah, it's white. Okay, cool. So before we continue real quick, we're going to grab the fonts that we are using, and I'm using Roboto. And the best way to implement fonts in a website is using Google Fonts. So this is the new Google Fonts design. Looks great, in my opinion. I think the Roboto is going to be on top. Yeah, there it is. So let's check out which sizes we're using, or which styles. Regular, 400, that is. Medium. Let's grab regular, medium, and bold. Just so you... Regular, medium, and bold. Yeah, and we're going to use the HTML embed. So we're going to throw that into our HTML. Actually, let's just full screen this. It's going to be easier. So here's our fonts. We can actually add a comment. Cool. And then on top we could set body and input button. Yeah, let's set that. And then grab the font family. Okay, cool. So you can see probably that the font family changed for the input. And we're going to set the font size as well. It's going to be 15, yeah. So that's font size 15, font weight 400, that is normal. Okay, cool, now it looks better. And the text indents would be 15? No, actually 20. Nice. Yeah, no, that's too much, 18. Yeah, that looks better, much better. Okay, let's just fix the button real quick. Oh, right. Just gonna Google one thing. See which ones are covered at Stack Overflow. Let's use CSS tracks. Is it WebKit? Moz? Aha, okay, cool. So these are just browser compatible fixes. You don't have to do these. You could use prefix, auto prefixer for Sass or less. I don't really care. I'm gonna do it the old way. Some people are gonna bash me for that, but I don't care. Okay, cool. So now it's gonna work across the browsers. Let's fix the button, like I said. 50, yeah. And since this is going to be on top of the actual input field, we're going to have to be positioning it absolute. We could set it relative, but that would we would have to fix the width of the input and all that. But since we don't have any different elements and such, this is just the easiest way to do this. And the top is going to be 15 pixels, the right 15 pixels as well to accommodate for the padding. And we can set z-index. Set index to 2. Cool. We can also remove the appearance of our button. Let's set the border radius to 25 pixels, the background to white, the border to 0, box shadow to none, and outline to none. Nice. Really nice. So let's resize it down real quick. You can see that the input actually continues on, and that's not something that we want. At least by what I mean it continues on is that we want the text to stop about right here. So we're going to have to accommodate for the width of the button in adding some padding. And that's top, then right, and then we're going to add 50 at least. Actually, let's do 60. Yeah, 60 pixels to accommodate for that. Yeah, that's much better. And why I set the text indent instead of the padding, well, I could actually show you instead of tell you. You can see that there's no difference, but when you start typing, you can see that it breaks off right there. And I personally don't think that's very user-friendly, because if they overflow, they don't really know unless the character breaks. So just to be extra detailed, or make sure that the user sees it, you can see that it overflows to the left. So that's why I do that. Nice. So now we actually have the header. Almost done. Why I mean almost done is that we don't have the actual icon in the middle. So we can grab our icons real quick over on here. We have the add icon SVG. We can actually open it up directly into the text editor, because the SVG is code. It's SVG code. Okay, cool. So we are going to, we can keep it in the group right here. You don't really have to understand this. You can read up on SVG. If you do know SVG, cool, awesome, great. We're going to set the class of this path right here. The path is the actual plus sign. We're going to set that to fill. And we can remove the style right here. And then we can grab these. This is the only important part of the SVG that we need. So we're going to copy that. And we're going to don't save it. And inside of here, we're going to paste this. We're going to minify it like so. Cool. I think, oh, wait a minute. I don't know if that's actually the good way, the right way to do it, but let's just let's don't care about that right now. I'm going to do it real quick. Okay, so width 16 pixels, height 16 pixels, float left. Or actually we can center it. Instead of using flexbox, we can just center it the old-fashioned way. Nice. And since we added a class to that that path, we can just grab the fill and set the fill to be the right color. And in this case, it's the same green as the header. Cool. So now we have our header done. Awesome. So we can type stuff. We can't really add anything else yet, but we will be able to. Let's make sure that this has the cursor pointer on it, so we know that we can actually click it. Nice. Alright, so we're also going to add the background. You can see that it's slightly gray-ish, very light gray. So we're going to grab that color and set that to our body. Set that on top, actually prefer that. Cool, really, really cool. Let's just close these tabs. So now we're going to have to introduce some JavaScript into this. We're going to set an ID to the button, add item. Okay, cool. And then item, or yeah, let's set item and then add instead. Okay, cool. So in the JavaScript, we're going to have to grab some stuff, and this is where we're going to grab the event of a click on the button. We're going to grab the value of the input field and add it to a list. So first off, we're going to let's create a main.js. This is going to be the main.js. The main.js, obviously, hello. This is going to be the main JavaScript file that we're going to use. I don't think we're going to have to use more than one. Then we're going to include it at the bottom of our HTML file, or the body, actually. Okay, nice. So let's just, for lols. Yay, cool. So I know I talked about this in a past video about where you should put your script tags, and it doesn't really matter, because if we were to now grab this button right here, we want this specific button, we would have to refer to the document, which is the DOM, the document object model, and we want to get element by ID, and that is add. Let's just log this. You can see that the button is right there. If I'm wrong right now, I'm going to be so embarrassed, but I am 99.9% sure that this is not going to work. Yes, I was right. That's because when you load this, the document object model hasn't loaded. All these elements doesn't exist yet when you load this, because an HTML file is loaded from top to bottom. So that's why you post, or you paste your script tags in the bottom of the body. But if you really want your script tags in the head, you can do window on load, and then do whatever you want. And this is going to execute when the window has loaded, and then the button exists. Pretty cool. So if we were to run these both, you can see that the first one is null, and the second one is the button, which is an object in this case. There's the button. And the first one is the second one, but the second one is run first because window on load is an event that this function listens for this event to happen, and then it logs the console log, which happens afterwards. Okay, so now you know that. But since we don't want to clutter our code with some onload events, we could just paste this in the body. Doesn't really matter, like I said, where you post it or not, whether you paste it in the body or in the head. Just be consequent over your projects on where you use them. Actually, JavaScript. That's better. Roboto font embed, style sheets, and JavaScripts. Cool. Alright, so when we click the add button, we want to grab the value of the input field. So document, get element by ID. Yes, the script tag, that's exactly what we wanted. And we want to add a listener for the event. You can do two things for this. You can do on click like this, just like we had window on load. But you can also do add event listener like that, and that's going to take two arguments, the what kind of event and then the callback. Same thing goes for the window. Okay, cool. So now you get that kind of really simple. So when we click on the add button, we want to run some code. And actually, let's break out this code. Well, let's not break it out. You could run a separate function called button click and run that when you click on the button itself, like that. Boop, button clicked. But it's kind of unnecessary if you break out code into functions, unless you're going to reuse the code on, for example, if you had several buttons doing the same thing. That's a good idea. Okay, so user clicked on the add button. If there is any text inside the, what was it, item field, right? Yes, item field. Add that text to the to-do list. Cool. So when we click on this, we need to grab the value of the input field that we have right here. And since we have an ID, that's going to be extremely simple. So we have value equals document get element by ID. item, and then we're going to grab the value, the property on the object that is this element. So we can log the value, click, it's going to be nothing, ASD, it's going to be ASD. So we want to check if value is, well, we can actually say if value because an empty string is always false. So if value, log, there was a value, woo! So nothing happens, there was a value, woo! Cool! So if the value existed, we want to add this to the to-do list. So let's check out the design real quick. You can see that we only have one text and then we have two buttons on the left and the right. We could do the front end for that as well. But real quick, just to make sure that we have that design, and then we can just use JavaScript to paste in list items. We can have two lists actually, and then add classes for these. To do. Let's comment that one out. Alright, so now we're going to look at how we style the to-do list. With the 100%, flip left, and it's going to contain some lists resets as well. But you can see that the list actually doesn't appear, but that's because the lists are underneath the header. So to accommodate for the header, we're going to drop into the body and add the padding of the height of the header, which is 80. Nice. So there's the list. And since we have some padding as well, we can add that to the actual list, not the body. We could do it on the body actually. That actually depends on your preference. If you want to add new elements and stuff, you could add that to the body, or if you want to add it to the list, doesn't really matter. So since we're going to use you know what, let's create a container for this. And why, I'm going to show you in a real quick second. Okay, let's grab the UL to do. The li, it's going to be the 100%, load it. And then we have a height as well. I think that's 50. Yes, 50 pixels. Oops. This is not going well. Okay, cool. Width, background, white. Back and go round. I always mistype it like that. Back, go round. Border radius 5 pixels. Box shadow. And this is going to be the same as the header, but a little bit more subtle. I think that's, yeah, it's the same, but the a little bit lower in some parts of the value. So it's going to be 1 in Y and 2 in blur and 10% in the opacity. Okay. Check that out. Nice. So we're gonna fix the container real quick as well. Nice. So now we have the container containing the UL list to do, and in that we have the list item. Let's add a couple more items really quickly. Nice. you can see that we have no margin, so let's add a margin to the bottom, and that's 10 pixels actually. Nice. But the last item we don't want a margin, so we just do L to do li last of. You could do last child, but you can also do last of type, because if you have any more list items with a certain class or something, you want the actual last of type, which is the li. So I always use last of type for that specific reason. We want to reset the margin. So the last one is going to have no margin. Really nice. So we can remove those again just to make sure we don't have to copy a bunch of HTML code. So the last thing we want to do for the list item real quick is the buttons right here. So let's create a div called buttons. The button is going to have a specific width. So since these cover exactly the height and the width, damn it, 50-50, yeah. So that's going to be 50 plus 50, 100 pixels in width. And then the height of 50 pixels. Position it, let's absolute. Let's do absolute, and then position relative on the list item. Since the if we're going to do absolute, you need the parent to have relative to be able to align the buttons or the element inside of the parent to the parent itself in an absolute position. Okay, and then we need to accommodate for that as well, so add the padding of 0, 100 pixels to the right, so that the text actually can break when it hits the buttons. Okay, so in the buttons we're going to have more buttons. 2 buttons. And each button is going to be 50 by 50. Floats left. And we're going to have to reset everything. Background none. Border 0 pixels. Box shadow none. I think that's it. Outline none. Yeah, okay. So now we have the buttons right here. And we can do buttons button last of type before. So this is going to be the border in between them right here. So this is going to select this button and set its before pseudo selector to this border. Then we're going to have to set position relative on the button as well, since it's going to be an absolute positioning of that border. Cool, so that's the border between the buttons. Really nice. So the next thing is to add the delete or remove icon and the complete icon as well. But first we're going to add a class of remove and a class of complete, so we know which button we're clicking on later on. And we can add some styles to the list items text as well. So font size 14. Yeah, font size, font weight for 500. Color of 4, yeah. Then the line height to be maybe 22. And that means that we need to accommodate for that kind of padding. Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking about something, an improvement. but 50 minus 22 is 28 divided by 2 is 14, so 14 pixels. Nice. And we can add 14 pixels at the end as well, just because we want to. So that means if we resize this down, it's going to break like that, and we can set the min height to be 50 rather. So now it's going to accommodate with the height as well. Nice. So that's the text. We need to add the icons, which is going to be a little different. Okay, so we're going to add the remove icon first. And we still have the icon right here. So let's open it up. Oh yeah, that's quite a lot more SVG code. But all of these are going to have the same fill, so we can paste in the same fill class for them all. These all don't need the same group really, but let's just leave it as is because I don't feel like caring about that right now. And we have a rectangle, and that's basically making the 22 by 22 because both icons are going to be 22 pixels by 22 pixels, and that's just going to make it easier for us to size it. So let's set just no fill and set it up in the top here, no fill, fill none. Nice. So in these buttons, we're going to have an SVG, and that's going to be the width of 22 by width of 22. Position it absolute, top 50, left 50, margin minus 11, minus 11. Sorry for being so super fast, but I only have so much time for this, so I'm going to do it as quick as possible, but not stress through it. So complete only has the before, correct. So, sorry, jumping between these. Let's grab the SVG code, remove the style first. Let's grab the SVG code, and to save some time, let's go to LPV and unify our SVG. So the remove, we have this, we can remove the ID. Wow, I forgot the ID. Silly Max. Okay, so that's the remove icon, and in button SVG fill, in the button that has the class of remove, the fill is going to be this hazy faded out green. Nice, there it is. But if we hover on it, hover on this actual button, we want the fill to change to red. Right here. Nice, cool. Also, let's add I just realized something that's crap. Okay, yeah, sorry. I was just thinking that maybe we should do the buttons the same height and width as the SVG just to make sure that the click have is on the icon, but let's just not go into that kind of detail work right now. I'm just such a perfectionist. Okay, so the fill class, we want to add a transition of fill 0.2 seconds maybe. Much better. And cursor pointer. Nice. So that's the remove icon. Next we need to create the complete icon. That's going to be a little different. or the done icon, we have a rectangle right there. And yeah, sorry, no, doesn't matter. No fill, and then of course the fill class. Removing this and copying this, pasting it, removing ID. Actually, let's use PV again, saving some time. Removing the ID right there. Cool. So the complete class is going to have the fill of a green color, this color. Yeah, that's the same. Okay, so that's the thing that I was thinking about, is that if the button is complete, has the class of complete rather, SVG should have the border radius of 11 pixels and a border of, what was it? Man. I really don't like float numbers as border widths. Let's try it out and see what happens. Crap. Yeah, it works out. Yeah, it does. Interesting. All right, yeah, sure. Yeah, cool. So the only thing left is to add a class of completed, or rather we could do, what should we do? Should we do the ID? Maybe, or we should have a class instead. Let's do ID instead, because that way we could select the lists and append. Yeah, let's do ID. So if the ID is completed, we want the this complete button to be different. So UL to do with the ID of completed, li buttons button complete. SVG should have border. We could just set the background actually to be the same. Well, let's say border 0 pixels, no reason to have border, and add the fill to be white. Nothing happened. Yay. What did I do wrong? Completed. Spelling error. Yes! Cool. Awesome. So if we remove the ID, it's going to be, yes, awesome. Really awesome. Really awesome. Cool. Okay, so let's just add a hover state for it. I don't know. Is that really gonna work? Add the transition as well. Aha. Wait. What? Aha. Sorry. wrong section. Okay, yeah, that works. That works, definitely work. Yeah. Okay, cool. So now we have the hovers. These we can remove and add. So nice. We can start adding stuff to the list now. We need to comment this one out, and then we can uncomment this. Let's add the ID of to-do, just because. Okay, cool. So if value exists, let's jump back into JavaScript here. If the value not really exists, but if the value is not empty, we want to add it to the to-do list. So let's create a function, add item to, well, we'll add item to do, and item, which is the value. If value, run the function add item to do value. Just to make sure that it works. Log the item. Hello. Yes, cool. So right here we're going to have to create all these HTML. So to create an element to add to the DOM, you can either do it via inner HTML, but that's not very efficient in the processing, because if you add a huge amount of HTML, the inner HTML method is going to be very unstable and chug up a lot of memory on your computer, or in the browser rather. So it's going to be a lot harder for especially mobile devices to render up. So either way, let's create the element for item now. Let's change this from item to text instead. Item equals document create element, and that's going to be an li. So this defines the HTML tag or the HTML element and the tag name. And the item doesn't need any class at all. In this item, we're going to set this inner HTML to be text. That's the one thing. You could set inner HTML or inner text, for example, to this. Let's do inner text, actually, because inner HTML is going to be able to add HTML to the item right here. But if you want the text to be escaped, you need to do inner text. Okay, cool. So inside of this, we also need to create a var buttons equals document create element buttons. No, buttons. A div with buttons needs to add class list, add the buttons class to that. Then we need to remove equals document create element a button, and the remove needs to have the class of remove as well. Let's do the same thing for add. I think those were add and remove, actually complete, sorry, not add. Nice. Then we need to grab the SVGs. Let's set a variable for that. Remove SVG equals this, and then var add or complete SVG equals, and then the string. Nice. Remove and complete icons in SVG format. Nice. Adds a new item to the to-do list. Cool. So in the remove, we want to just set inner. In this case, we want to set the inner HTML actually to be remove SVG, and the same thing for complete inner HTML equals complete SVG. Nice. So then we also have to append child. Remove and then complete. And then after we added the buttons, we need to do item dot append child buttons, not as a string, as the actual variable. And also we want to grab the list that we want to add them to, and that's the to-do. So var list equals document create element, no, not create element, get element by ID, to-do. And in the to-do we want to append the child of item. Now this is going to be interesting if this works. Yes! Nice! Awesome! So it works! Great job, guys! It works! Great! So now you can add items. Boop, 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 boop. A lot of items. The interesting part though is if we were to write out, you can see that this actually ends up on the bottom, but we want to add it to the top of everything. Let's do a quick Google. Prepend child JavaScript. Aha! Yeah, so insert before. Okay, cool. That makes sense. Insert before this item into the list child nodes 0. So insert this before the first item in the child nodes of the list, basically. Hello world. Yes! Cool! Awesome! So the last thing we want to do is reset the value. Great. Awesome, guys. If you've come this far and everything works, great job. It's truly awesome. So now you have a basic to-do list. You can't really complete them or remove them, but you can add them. That's something. That's really cool. So let's check out the design sketch. You can see that we have the items that have been done. We should really add this border right here, but that should be only visible if this list has any items at all. So let's take care of that. But first off, we could remove this. And now we want to be able to remove items as well from the list. So if we want to click this, we want to completely remove them from the to-do list. And we can do that simply by grabbing the remove button right here and adding a add click event for removing item. So remove, add event listener, click, remove item. So we create a function to handle that. In this case, it's a great idea to lift out that kind of functionality because this is going to be replicated on each time you add an item, and it's kind of bloated to add a bunch of functions for clicks on completing and removing items inside of another function. You could do that, of course, but I personally don't really like that way, so I prefer it this way. So in the remove item, we could get a event as well. That's a parameter that's sent for each element that has a click or a focus or whatever event it is. You get an event object that has a lot of properties about the event that happens. So if we click on this, you see it's a mouse event which has a lot of parameters, which also contains a target, but in this case it's an SVG. So grabbing e.target is not always the same. In this case it's an SVG. In this case it's a button because I clicked out of the outside of the SVG. So that way you could actually just grab this in this case, and that's going to be the button always. So that's the best way. That way we don't need the events details. So that's the button. This dot parent node, we need to grab the list item, the li. So that should be the parent node and the parent node again. Like that. That's the list item. So that's how we grab the list item, and then we just do document.remove. Document query selector body remove child. Sorry, I'm a bit tired. Get element by ID. Oh crap. Yeah, okay, yeah, let's just do var parent equals this, and we're gonna have to grab the list as well. So parent remove, or rather var item equals this, and then item parent node. Okay, so then just do parent.remove child of item. Yes! Awesome! Not at all annoying, Max. Not at all annoying. Either way, really cool. So now you can remove and add items. Doop, doop. Cool. So the next thing would be to complete items. And they would do basically the same thing, but they would remove them from one list and add them to another. And click event for adding or completing items. Completing the item, removing the item. Complete item. But you could actually complete them and uncomplete them. In my case, I think that's well, not in my case, but in this design case, you could uncomplete them and complete them. So we'd have to do some toggle changes for that. But either way, so we have a function for complete item, or item equals this dot parent node. We can just do the same thing here. So that's the item, and then var parent equals item dot parent node. And this is where things get a little interesting. That's because the two lists have two different IDs. So that's where we could grab and check if it's a completed or it's a to-do. And then var parent ID, or actually ID, like this camel case, we could do parent.id, and then if, let's just do ID instead. If ID is equal to to-do, it's a to-do item to be completed, else it's a completed item to be redone. Nice. So well, to be honest, we could just do var target, and you could do target equals document get element by ID. In this case, it's the completed list, and in the other case, it's the to do list. But this is really unnecessary. We could just do an if statement within the declaration. So do this by adding two parentheses and doing if ID is equal to do question mark. If that is true, you say that it is this colon, which means otherwise it's to do. That's the same code right there. Check if the item should be added to completed or re-added to do. Nice. So that's the target. So the only thing we need to do is do parent, remove child, target, append child, or actually insert before item target child nodes 0. This would be interesting. Ha! Nice! It actually works. Like, I'm surprised. I'm seriously surprised that it worked the first time. This is so awesome. This is literally so freaking awesome. So what's left is to grab the UL to do completed right there. I'm just going to do 0.5 to make sure. Yes, it works. Cool. If it's not empty, that means it doesn't contain any. Sorry, it doesn't. It does. That means that if it doesn't contain any items, don't apply this style. We want to apply this style right here. That's a padding of, yeah, it should be 30-30 actually. Sorry about the design sketch error right there. Before, width 150 pixels, height 1 pixel, background, what was it? Position absolute. Also, we need to set the content to nothing. Top 0, actually 30 pixels left, FD margin 000 minus 75 pixels. Nice, and then we need to set this padding to be 60 pixels to the top. Okay, cool. I don't think I need to do that, but I'm just want to make sure. Nice. Really freaking cool, man. Awesome. This is really cool. I mean, it's super cool. That's one thing that we need to do left. Maybe we should add a empty message. No, that's a bit overkill. You guys can play around and do some other extra stuff for this to work out better. This is awesome. All right, so I guess that's it, guys. We have successfully created a to-do list using JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. Like I said, all this code is going to be on a GitHub repo. I'm sorry, I actually didn't say that. So this code is going to be on a GitHub repo where you can download it and check it out for yourself, unless you've coded it by watching this video. But yeah, cool. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it.